My name is Alina Cross. I'm 32 years old, and 3 months ago, my brother laughed across the dinner table and told everyone I was basically unemployed with a laptop. 20 relatives heard it. No one corrected him. My mother nodded, my father smirked, my brother added, freelancing isn't a career, it's a phase. They all believed him. 6 weeks later, his company called an emergency executive meeting. The board had assigned a restructuring authority, someone with full review power over every department. When I finally walked into that conference room, HR asked everyone to stand. My brother stood too, slowly, staring at me like the ground had shifted under his chair. What he didn't know was that meeting wasn't luck. It was the result of a decision made months earlier. Before I take you back to where this really started, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if this story earns it. I don't want sympathy clicks. I want you to judge at the end. Now, let me take you back to the night my brother turned my career into a punchline. It was my mother's birthday dinner. Big table, too many dishes, too many opinions. The kind of family gathering where everyone talks and nobody listens. Marcus was in a great mood, which usually meant someone else wouldn't be. He had just finished telling a long story about a presentation he gave at work. Slides, applause, senior manager approval, every detail included. He loved rooms where he sounded important. Then my aunt asked the question that always comes for me. "So, Elena, how's work going?" Simple question, dangerous stage. "Good," I said. "Busy." Marcus laughed into his drink. "Busy doing what? Choosing coffee shops?" he said. A few people smiled. I kept my tone even. "Client risk reviews." He waved his fork. Translation, unemployed with spreadsheets. That was the line. That was the one they repeated later. People laughed, not because it was cruel, but because it was easy. Safe target, familiar joke. My mother didn't laugh, but she didn't stop it either. She gave that polite smile she uses when she agrees but doesn't want responsibility. Marcus just worries. You know how the market is. The market. I had 3 active contracts and 2 pending reviews, but none of them came with business cards, so they didn't exist to this table. "What company again?" my uncle asked me. "I can't disclose clients," I answered. Marcus snapped his fingers. "That's my favorite part. Invisible clients." More laughter. And just like that, reputation sealed for another year. In families, labels stick faster than facts. I excused myself to the kitchen and helped with plates. My cousin whispered, "He goes too far sometimes." But she still laughed when she said it. Defense without risk isn't defense, it's decoration. When dinner ended, Marcus clapped my shoulder like a coach talking to a struggling player. "Seriously," he said quietly, "you should try getting hired somewhere real. You're smart enough, you just avoid structure." Avoid structure. I almost smiled at that, because structure was exactly what I was buried inside. Layers of it. Legal, financial, operational. He just couldn't see it, and I couldn't tell him. That part mattered more than anyone knew. On the drive home, my phone buzzed with a secured message alert. Not a normal email, not marketing, the kind that requires identity verification just to open. I didn't check it at the red light. Some messages deserve still hands. When I reached home, I logged in through the secure portal and opened it. One line waited at the top. "You have been advanced to the final review stage." No title, no role name, just a status change. My heartbeat picked up. This process had already been months. Written exams, live scenario panels, stress interviews, background audits. Most people were removed quietly along the way. I never told my family I applied. The next line explained why. "From this stage forward, disclosure restrictions apply. Discussing participation with personal contacts may result in immediate removal." I leaned back in my chair and laughed once, quietly. Perfect. Not because it was easy, because now I had a reason to stay silent at dinner tables. They thought I had nothing going on, and officially, I was required to let them think that. Marcus could joke, my relatives could label, no correction allowed, because whatever this became, it would introduce itself when it was ready, not before. The problem with silence is this. People don't treat it as neutrality, they treat it as confirmation. Within 2 weeks, Marcus's joke had turned into a family fact. At a Sunday brunch, my aunt introduced me to her friend as between jobs right now. She said it kindly, which somehow made it worse. I opened my mouth to correct her, then closed it. Restricted disclosure meant restricted defense, so I smiled and let the wrong story live. Marcus, meanwhile, was getting louder. He started sending screenshots in the family group chat, photos from his office, conference rooms, visitor badges, presentation screens. "Big week, real work, real pressure," he wrote once, then added, "not laptop freelancing pressure." No one told him to stop. My mother reacted with a heart emoji. That told me everything. At night, my schedule looked nothing like what they imagined. My calendar was blocked in gray bars labeled only with codes. My calls were recorded automatically. My notes were stored inside encrypted folders. Twice a week, I joined closed evaluation panels where candidates were given collapsing company scenarios and asked to stabilize them in real time. You weren't graded on speed. You were graded on judgment under incomplete information. Half the people cracked in the first 10 minutes. I never mentioned it to anyone. Officially, it didn't exist. Unofficially, it was the hardest work I had ever done. One evening, after a 4-hour simulation review, my phone lit up with Marcus's name. I almost ignored it, but answered. "Hey," he said. "Quick question." "Okay." "Are you still living off savings?" Direct, casual, surgical. "No," I said. "So income is random?" "It's structured," I replied. He laughed. "Structured nothing is still nothing." I said nothing back. He filled silence with confidence. "Listen, my company may open internal analyst roles next quarter, entry level, but stable. I could refer you." There it was, the rescue offer. Every golden child eventually makes one, not to help, but to confirm hierarchy. "I'm not looking," I said calmly. "You should be. Markets are tightening. Invisible careers disappear first." Invisible. If he only knew how visible my work was becoming, just not to him. After the call, another secure portal message arrived. Panel performance. Above threshold. Continue. No celebration, just movement. Progress in this system was quiet on purpose. No applause, no titles, just gates opening one at a time. 3 days later, my mother called again. "Marcus says your field is unstable," she said gently. "He worries you're isolating." I almost laughed at the word choice. Isolating. If she could see my call logs, my review panels, my caseloads, she'd think the opposite. But perception beats reality when reality is confidential. "I'm fine," I told her. "You always say that." "Yes," I said softly, "because it's true." After we hung up, I opened the next case file assignment. My eyes stopped on the industry label. Corporate logistics, large-scale operations, regional infrastructure exposure. I stared at it a few seconds longer than normal. Something about it felt familiar. Not the company name, that was hidden, but the structure pattern. I'd seen something like it before, recently, closer than I liked. I pushed the thought aside and began the review, because in this process, distraction was failure, and I was too far in to fail now. The case file was stripped of names, just numbers, charts, incident logs, and internal emails. That was standard. We were supposed to judge decisions, not personalities. But the deeper I read, the more uncomfortable I felt. The leadership tone in the emails was overconfident, dismissive of risk warnings, focused on presentation optics instead of operational cracks. I had seen that tone before. Not in a report, across a dinner table. I sat back and rubbed my eyes, then forced myself forward again. Assumptions were dangerous. Pattern recognition had to be proven, not felt. 3 hours later, I submitted my stabilization plan and risk flags. 2 minutes after submission, a response appeared in the portal. Evaluator note: strong detection depth. Continue to next layer. Next layer files unlocked automatically. More internal messages, budget shortcuts, delayed maintenance approvals, manager jokes about overreacting analysts. My jaw tightened. Whoever this leadership team was, they didn't respect warning signals. They respected appearances. I wrote my escalation recommendation and closed the session. It was past midnight. My phone showed 3 unread messages from Marcus. A photo, a glass building lobby. Caption: late night at real work. Try it sometime. Another message followed. You should visit my office one day. See how companies actually run. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I typed, maybe I will. He reacted with a thumbs up, like he'd just won something. He had no idea how close to the truth that invitation was. 2 days later, the family group chat exploded again. My aunt had forwarded a job posting. Remote data assistant, flexible hours. Message under it: thought of you, Elena. Heart. Marcus replied instantly. Perfect fit, LOL. No one challenged him. I muted the thread, but not before my mother added, stability matters more than pride. That line stayed with me, because pride had nothing to do with my silence. Clearance did. That same afternoon, I received a schedule lock notice. Final live evaluation panel. Mandatory attendance. Executive observers present. That was new. Observers meant decision makers. Decision makers meant selection was close. The instructions were strict. Camera on, identity verified, no recording, no outside presence in the room. I prepared like it was a courtroom. Case notes printed, risk frameworks open, scenario trees mapped. The panel lasted 90 minutes. Rapid-fire questions, contradicting data drops, mid-scenario rule changes, ethical traps hidden inside efficiency shortcuts. One evaluator interrupted me halfway through. Your recommendation would upset senior management, he said flatly. Yes, I answered, but it would protect the company. Silence followed. Then the next question began. When it ended, no one thanked me, no one smiled. The screen went dark without ceremony. That's how serious processes work. No emotional leakage. 10 minutes later, a single-line message arrived. Status. Passed. Await assignment decision. I didn't celebrate, because passed didn't mean placed, and placement was what gave power. Without placement, you were just trained. With placement, you were activated. That night, Marcus posted again, this time a team photo from a conference room. I almost scrolled past it. Then I noticed the logo on the wall behind him. My breath paused. I had seen that logo style before. Recently. Inside a stripped case file header, blurred but not erased enough. I zoomed in on the photo. Same color scheme, same symbol geometry. My pulse slowed instead of rising, which meant my instincts were no longer guessing. They were aligning. And if I was right, the collision course had already been scheduled. I didn't message Marcus about the logo, didn't ask questions, didn't hint. Processes like this punish interference. If the connection was real, I would see it officially, not socially. The next morning, a sealed calendar block appeared in my secure portal. Assignment window reserved. Standby required. No company name, no location, no briefing packet yet. Just a time range and a readiness flag. That meant placement was no longer theoretical. It was approaching. I canceled 2 small client calls without explanation. The portal agreement allowed that. When activation came, everything else had to move. Around noon, my mother called again. "Are you free this Sunday?" she asked. "I'm not sure yet." "You're always not sure," she sighed. "Marcus is presenting something big next week, senior leadership review. He's under pressure." I let that sit quietly between us. "That's good for him," I said. "You could learn from his discipline," she added gently. "Structure builds success." There it was again, the word they loved, structure. If she saw my current evaluation chain, she'd think I was inside a military program, but silence was still required. "I'll try to come Sunday," I told her. "Try harder," she said, and hung up. That evening, Marcus texted me directly. "Big week, executive review panel coming in, whole division nervous." I read it twice, then replied, "You'll do fine." He sent back, "Different level than freelance life. Stakes are real here." I smiled at the screen. Stakes were very real where I was, too, just not visible. Another portal message arrived while I was still holding the phone. Pre-assignment compliance check. Complete immediately. That had never appeared before. I opened it. Conflict of interest disclosure, family employment disclosure, prior advisory exposure, relationship mapping. My jaw tightened slightly. The form was no longer generic, it was narrowing. I filled it honestly, including Marcus's employer name. I expected delay after that. Instead, approval came back in 11 minutes. Disclosure logged, no disqualification. Which meant one thing. They already knew. This wasn't a surprise connection. It was an accepted one. The collision course wasn't accidental. It was cleared. 2 days passed with no new instructions. That's how high-level processes build tension. Long silence before decisive movement. On Sunday, I went to the family lunch after all. Marcus arrived late, still in office clothes, still performing importance. He talked about review committees, leadership audits, outside evaluators coming in. "They're bringing in heavy hitters," he said proudly. "When they show up, rooms change." "Sounds serious," my uncle said. "It is," Marcus answered. "When authority walks in, everyone stands." The table nodded like that sentence proved something. I focused on my plate so no one would see my expression, because the phrasing was too exact, too close to my portal language. He noticed me quiet and smirked. "Don't worry, I'll give you a tour someday, show you how real pressure looks." "I'd like that," I said calmly. And for once, I meant it. That night at 9:12 p.m., the final notice arrived. No code title this time, no placeholder language, just a subject line. Executive intervention, attendance required. And beneath it, location, on-site, credentials attached. I downloaded the document, opened it, read it once, then again, slower. Not surprised, just confirmed. The building name matched Marcus's team photo, the same logo, the same division, the same floor range. The meeting he bragged about was mine, too. I didn't feel excitement. I felt stillness, the kind that comes when a long equation finally balances. I opened the credential file attached to the notice. It wasn't flashy, no gold seals, no dramatic wording, just a clean authorization sheet, clearance codes, and an access level higher than standard executive visitors. Temporary override permissions were listed across 3 operational areas. That was not normal visitor access. That was intervention access. I printed nothing, saved nothing locally, just memorized what mattered and closed the file. Process discipline mattered more than emotion now. My phone buzzed seconds later. "Marcus. Tomorrow's the big review. External authority coming in, whole floor stressed. I typed back. Then sleep early. He sent a laughing emoji. Pressure doesn't hit visitors, only people who work. I almost answered, then didn't. Because tomorrow, definitions were going to change. Dress codes matter in rooms where hierarchy lives. Not expensive, precise. Neutral colors, sharp lines, no distractions. I chose a charcoal jacket, white shirt, simple watch. No jewelry except my small ring, hair tied back. Nothing soft, nothing loud. Authority, when it arrives quietly, lands harder. At 6:40 a.m., another message came through the secure portal. Arrival window confirmed. Reception notified. Escort required. Do not self-announce role. That last line mattered. Do not self-announce, meaning the room would be told, not by me. Good. That's how power reveals correctly. The building lobby was larger than it looked in Marcus's photos. Glass, steel, polished stone. Early staff moving fast. Badge scanners chirping. I stepped to reception and gave my clearance code. The receptionist's posture changed instantly. Subtle, but real. She stood straighter, checked the screen twice, then picked up a private line. Escort requested, she said quietly. No visitor sticker, no waiting clipboard, just a call upstairs. That told me everything about how today was categorized internally. An elevator opened that required her key, not mine. Halfway up, my phone buzzed again. Family group chat. Marcus had sent a selfie from a conference room. War Day emoji. Wish me luck, my aunt replied. Proud of you. Real career moment. My mother added, this is what stability looks like. I locked the screen. Timing can be poetic when no one knows it is. The escort met me on the executive floor. Not security, not admin, internal governance staff. That was another signal. The conference wing is secured. They're assembled. Assembled. Not waiting. Assembled. Language reveals power structure if you listen. We walked past glass walls and silent assistants. Inside one room, I saw Marcus through the window, leaning forward, talking confidently, hands moving like he was explaining something important. He looked comfortable, certain, unchallenged. The escort didn't stop there. We passed his room. Another 10 steps. Different door. Frosted glass. Inside, senior staff only. He opened it for me, then stepped aside, not ahead. Also a signal. 2 minutes, he said. I entered alone. A folder sat at the center seat. My seat. Name printed, face down. No title visible from standing height. Perfect. Across the hall, chairs shifted, voices lowered. Someone said, they're here. Not she's here. They. Rooms expect power to arrive as a category, not a person. Footsteps approached the main conference door. Energy changed outside, the way weather changes before thunder. Because in a few seconds, the joke with the laptop was about to be introduced properly. The main conference doors opened across the hall. Chairs shifted. Conversations cut mid-sentence. Someone cleared their throat too loudly, a nervous reflex. My escort stepped forward and spoke to the room before I did. Executive intervention session begins now, he said calmly. Not loud. Didn't need to be. Authority travels well in quiet voices. I walked in behind him. Long table, department heads, senior managers, review binders open, coffee cups half finished, stress sitting on every shoulder. Marcus was on the right side, 3 seats down, mid-sentence when he saw me. His words stopped, but his mouth stayed slightly open, like the rest of the sentence forgot how to exit. First came confusion, then recognition, then rejection of recognition. He looked around like I must be in the wrong room. The escort spoke again. Board-appointed intervention lead has arrived. Not a name yet, a role. HR stood up first, not dramatically, just automatically. Training response. Then the others followed, uneven, uncertain, but standing. Chairs slid back across the room. Marcus stood last, slowly, not out of respect, out of compliance pressure. His eyes never left my face. I didn't look at him. Not yet. The escort placed the folder from my seat into my hands and turned it face up. My name showed. Clear, centered, official. A ripple moved across the table, the silent kind made of posture, not sound. I sat. Only after I sat did the room sit. That order matters more than people think. No one spoke for 3 full seconds. Those seconds were louder than Marcus's dinner table jokes had ever been. HR began the formal introduction, policy voice, measured tone, outlining scope, authority boundaries, review control, reporting line. Every sentence removed another layer of doubt from the room. Access level, oversight rights, decision escalation path. Marcus blinked like each phrase needed translation. I finally looked at him. Not with anger, not with victory, just recognition. The same recognition I gave broken systems before I started fixing them. He looked down at his printed agenda, then back at me, then at the folder, like paper might rescue him from reality. It didn't. The session began. Department summaries, risk flags, performance gaps, deferred maintenance logs, budget shortcuts. Halfway through the second report, Marcus tried to recover confidence. Our team already addressed most exposure scenarios, he said, voice steady but tight. Internal review shows low escalation probability. I turned one page in the folder, then another, then slid a document copy across the table toward him. Timestamped. Internal message thread. His message. Risk warning dismissed. Analyst overridden. Delay approved. Room silence returned, heavier this time. Probability isn't protection. Controls are. No edge in my voice, no revenge, just procedure. That confused him more than anger would have, because he came prepared to defend against emotion, not documentation. He didn't speak again for the rest of the first hour, and for the first time in our adult lives, Marcus stopped being the authority voice in the room. He became the reviewed one. By lunch break, no one there remembered the joke, only the signature line under my name, and upstairs, in a muted family group chat, messages were still praising his big career day. They had no idea the meeting wasn't his moment. It was his audit. The break ended quieter than it started. No hallway jokes, no confident voices. People returned to their seats like students after results were posted. Marcus didn't look at anyone now, not even his own manager. His pen stayed in his hand, but he hadn't written a word. When the session resumed, we moved from department risk to decision trails, not outcomes, choices. Why warnings were dismissed, why controls were delayed, why approvals were rushed. Patterns matter more than mistakes, and his pattern was clear. Not malicious, not corrupt, overconfident, dismissive, image first. Dangerous in leadership, even when intentions are clean. At the end, I gave the standard closing directive. Corrective controls, review schedule, temporary approval limits on certain mid-level override powers, including his. Policy language, neutral tone, no drama. But impact doesn't need volume. The room understood. When it ended, people packed slower than usual. No one rushed to Marcus, no supportive shoulder taps. Professional distance formed naturally, like fog. He waited until the room cleared. Then he approached. Up close, he looked smaller, not physically, structurally, like certainty had been removed from inside him. "You knew," he said quietly. "Yes." "For how long?" "Long enough to stay silent." He swallowed. "You could have told me." "I couldn't, and you wouldn't have listened." That part landed. He looked down, then gave a short, humorless breath. "The laptop joke, that was bad timing." "It was accurate," I said calmly. "I was on a laptop." He almost smiled. "Almost." "This stays here?" he asked. "The process stays here," I replied. "The lessons don't." That was the closest thing to mercy available inside procedure. I left first. Authority exits don't linger. By evening, the internal summary memo had circulated through executive channels. Controlled language, no theatrics, but Marcus's name appeared 3 times in recommendation notes. Training required, override restrictions, leadership review delay. Not fired, corrected, which is harder on pride. The family found out 4 days later, not from me, from Marcus. My mother called, voice different this time, careful. "Why didn't you tell us what you actually do?" she asked. I wasn't allowed to. Silence sat between us. "We misjudged," she said softly. "Yes," I answered, not cruelly, just true. At the next family dinner, no one made career jokes. No one used the word freelance like a diagnosis. My aunt asked what kind of work I handle now. I gave the same answer as before. Operational risk. This time, no one laughed. Context upgrades language. Marcus arrived late again, but quieter, less performance, more listening. Halfway through dinner, he said it without looking at me. I was wrong. No speech, no excuse, just the sentence. That was enough, because growth sounds different than apology. People think moments like this feel like victory. They don't. They feel like balance restored. No spotlight, no music, just weight redistributed correctly. The joke didn't ruin me. The silence built me. And the laptop he laughed at was the same one that signed his review order. Turns out, structure matters after all.